One of the best things you can do as a neurodivergent is be a pick me. And I don't mean a pick me like a girl who people pleases everyone and their mom and makes everyone feel good and who's a huge empath. I mean a people pleaser to yourself, a pick me to yourself, aka I pick me. When you become a picker of yourself, people are going to start asking you whether you are actually a pick me, because a lot of neurodivergents and other people who have been following your journey throughout your life are going to be projecting the fact that you pleasing yourself is actually you trying to please other people. And that is them projecting their insecurities. That's not them actually seeing what's going on with you. And when you start seeing people telling you that you are a pick me because they think you are, that's actually when you know you're actually focusing on yourself. This happened to me a lot when I started my level up journey, and I've had multiple level up journeys. Me, myself, and I realized a couple years ago that I needed to live the soft life in order for me not to be burnt out, in order for me not to live a life where I was constantly on the fence, constantly angry, constantly trying to fight someone, trying to tell people about why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that, trying to defend myself. In order for me to live a life where I wasn't defending my neurodivergence, where I wasn't defending myself, when I wasn't getting burned out from trying to overcompensate, I needed to change something. I needed to change something about myself. And one thing that I never wanted to change about myself as a neurodivergent was my personality. My nerdy B word personality, who's a bit of a menace, but also stands for what she believes. I didn't want to change my personality, but at the time, my style was absolutely crazy. My style was screaming neurodivergent in the best way possible, I guess. I used to dye my hair. I had red hair for a period. I used to have blonde hair for a period. It was never really looking that good. I used to wear crazy colors everywhere I went, and I used to have all of my tattoos on a flash, like everyone could see them. And as much as it was really cool that I was doing all of these crazy outfits, because it was definitely something that I wanted to pursue, one thing that I thought was that I was being authentically myself. Everyone would ask me really weird questions about my outfits, and every time they would ask me weird questions about my outfits or my tattoos or the way that I did my makeup, which was also kind of horrendous, I'm not gonna lie, I thought, oh yeah, you're coming at me with all your questions about my outfits? It's because you can't handle me. It's because you can't handle my authentic self. And in reality, that was just breeding a lot of resentment towards other people. I was kind of feeling like I was better, that I was cooler, I was badder than them. And it was actually breeding so much resentment within me that I ended up becoming very burned out, because in my head, I was constantly having the conversation of trying to defend myself against these people, because I was so used to getting really weird comments from people. I was so used to getting really weird looks. I was so used to getting weird comments about, why do you have these tattoos? Why do you have this style? Why do you this? Why do you that? And then I would take it as like, oh wow, they don't really like themselves. They want to ask me all kinds of questions because they don't really know themselves well enough and they don't have any manners. But of course, they were asking all of these questions. My personality as a menace, I don't want to say I'm extroverted like that. I'm definitely introverted when it comes to socializing, but I'm someone who's very, expressive. I'm very expressive. So my personality was very expressive and my style was very expressive. And of course, that invited along a lot of weird questions because I was dressing really weird. I remember at my brother's second baptism, when he was a teenager, at my brother's second baptism, everyone else was dressed really, really nice. And I was dressed in this crazy shirt, like a big grandpa shirt with all kinds of colors on it. And I had like my hair was kind of spiky, and everyone else in the church, and I'm not saying you need to comply with everything that goes on, but I should have sniffed out that I was definitely going to get really weird questions from my look that day. Everyone else was wearing toned down clothes and, nice clothes fitting for the occasion, and they weren't getting weird questions. And me, I was wearing this crazy shirt. And I couldn't understand why people were staring at me. And I was on some, why are they staring at me? They should just accept me for who I am. And that was a narrative I was stuck with for many, many, many years. Many, 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 many years. I thought I had to, defend my authenticity. I thought I had to defend it. And that to me told me that that was really not my authenticity, because I was really not comfortable within it into a level where I could just go around and be myself without having to ask myself questions in my own head. Because I was still having these conversations with strangers in my own head about my looks, because I knew that people were going to ask me weird questions. And that showed me that I really didn't have no inner peace. Maybe I'm something that needs to change. Maybe there's something about myself I need to change. And I didn't want to change my personality, as I said before. I wanted to change something else. And you know what I could change? I could change my looks. I realized I wanted the soft life. I realized I wanted to be taken care of. I started seeing all of this feminine energy content out on social media, and I realized that in order for me to facilitate my neurodivergence, in order for me to become the person that I really want and not be resentful, not be rude, not be mad, I needed to tap into my feminine energy. And I thought I could tap into my feminine energy in the beginning by just like changing my behavior. And that made me even more burned out, because I was still dressing like crazy and I was adjusting my behavior for other people. I was masking my behavior. Instead, when I started changing my clothes, when I started dressing more feminine, when I started dressing more toned down, when I started dressing in skirts and heels and nice boots with nice handbags, and having my hair nice, having my nails nice, nothing over the top, but just classy, suddenly people didn't really care about my personality. People were looking at the fact that my makeup was nice. They were looking at the fact that my outfit was nice every day. I was doing myself up. I was carrying myself a certain way, because I was obviously wearing clothes that I couldn't really sag around in. Suddenly, people started treating me the way I wanted to be treated without me having to change my personality. I could still be the menace that I usually were. I could still be the nerd that I was as a neurodivergent. I could still be my authentic self within, and I could actually be more so, because I never had to answer any weird questions, so I could do whatever I needed to do. I could mind my own business in peace. I could worry about my own self, my own dreams, what I wanted to do by myself on my own. And you know what happened when I started dressing more feminine, when I started dressing more down, when I started covering up my tattoos? People around me started asking me whether I was feeling like myself. Ooh, are you actually feeling like yourself? Because I've been living for many, many years trying to tell people that this is myself, that me dressing the crazy way I was dressing, that is myself. I've been trying to convince people of that. And then now I toned it down. Now I became more feminine. People started asking questions about whether that was really myself. They started asking, are you doing this for other people, or are you doing it for yourself? And actually, they were more leaning towards the fact that I was doing it to be a pick-me, that I was dressing up feminine to be a pick-me, to be picked by people. And in reality, I was doing it for myself, because I realized it was not about my authentic self, because my authentic self was miserable. What I thought was my authentic self, she was actually really, really miserable. Instead, I had to change to become my authentic higher self. And my authentic higher self, she was very, very happy. She was very content, because suddenly I wasn't doing things to please other people. I wasn't doing things to evoke a conversation with people, which is kind of what I think I actually subconsciously was doing before. Suddenly, I was dressing in a way that gave people a certain impression of me. It gave people the impression that I deserve to be taken care of. It gave people the impression that I'm a diva. And not a diva in a way that I expect people to take care of me no matter what. A diva in a sense that she takes a lot of good care of herself. She does her makeup, she does her clothes, she does her hair, she does her nails. She carries herself, she's very assertive. that must mean that she deserves the treatment that she asks for. She makes it clear she wants this, she lives up to this, she gives this treatment to herself. That means that she deserves it. You know what? Sometimes I can't believe the fact that I was stuck in that mentality that I was my authentic self for so many years, because when I look back, I was so resentful. And I actually was a pick me because I was picking fights with people. I was picking fights with people to try to prove my opinion right, to try to prove that my authentic self was right. But in reality, that's never what I should have done. I should have just gone about my day, but I couldn't because there was something wrong with the things I was doing for myself. It wasn't what I actually wanted for myself. I was on the fence constantly. I was trying to prove to people that I could do things the right way. And you know what? The reason that I actually became more aware of that was that my mom told me that she was doing that. My mom told me that she was someone who was trying to prove everyone that, she could do things her way. I could do things my own way. I could do things the way I wanted to. And when I saw my mom saying that, I realized I was doing the exact same thing that she was doing. And when I saw the behavior my mom had had around me as a child growing up, the way that she was always trying to, tell me that she was doing things her own way, but in the same way, she was really insecure about the things she was doing for herself. Like, she was very contradictory towards herself. She was constantly talking about, oh, well, people should just like me for who I am. But at the same time, she was always defending what she was doing. She was never just comfortable with what she was doing. She was never just happy with the choices she made. She had to defend them. Then I realized I was going down the same spiral as my mom. And when I realized I was going down the same spiral as my mom, that's when I realized that my mom was a pick me. My mom was actually a pick me. And the behavior I thought was very anti pick me was actually very, very pick me. And the thing I actually really needed to do was to say, what do I really want? What do I really want? Do I want to prove to people that I could do things my own way? Or do I want peace? Do I want the the privilege to be able to take care of myself? Do I want the facilities, the accommodations that can accommodate my neurodivergence, make me feel more at peace, make me grow more, make me actually take the time I need to take to focus on the things I need to focus on? Or do I want to pick fights with people to prove to them that I'm authentic? I didn't need to prove to people that I was authentic, but because I have been trying to prove to people my whole life that I was authentic, people were, of course, going to ask me, are you not trying to do this to please other people? When I actually started becoming more inward and when I started to focus on myself more, of course, people were going to tell me I'm a pick me. That's when I knew that I was actually on my way to becoming better for myself. That's when I knew I was actually starting to make way for who I really wanted to be and what I really needed in my life. On social media now, I get a lot of comments about people saying, well, you change your looks for other people and neurodivergents should never change their looks for other people. And that's fine. If you're happy with the life you're living now, if you're happy with everything you're going through now, you should never change anything for anyone. And you should never change anything for anyone. You should change things for yourself, first and foremost. But if you're stuck with a people pleaser mentality, you're going to think that changing things, you're going to think that making a change in your life is going to be for other people because that's how you were raised. You're going to think that doing changes in your own life is actually you doing things to please other people. While in reality, when you start becoming less of a people pleaser, when you start thinking, okay, what can I do to escape my people pleaser life? You're going to have to change. And it's not going to be for other people. People are going to still think that you're doing it for other people, but you're going to realize it's not. And I have a lot of neurodivergence in my comment section on my social medias telling me that it's toxic, that I'm telling people that the way that I changed my looks to be more feminine actually helped me get the treatment and actually helped me become more comfortable and confident in my neurodivergence. But it is the truth. I changed my looks. I became more feminine. I became more classy. And that helped me stand on my business. It helped me not comply with what everyone else was saying. It helped me comply with what I wanted for myself. Instead of me using my looks as a trauma response, because the way I was dressing, the way I was showing all of my tattoos, all of that, it's definitely a trauma response. I was trying to show everyone that I could do me the right way. Instead of just saying, well, you know what? Me on my own, by myself, she's good enough. I don't need to show anyone that she's good enough. She is good enough. I realized that all of this trying to show everyone like a peacock that I'm this grand thing, that was actually stealing all of my peace. And I get a lot of neurodivergence, and I have to circle back because I lose the thread sometimes. I definitely do. I had to realize that, all of these people in the comment section telling me, well, you're not true to yourself. You are trying to do things to please other people. You're trying to please society by changing your looks. You're trying to please society by being more feminine. You shouldn't change your looks. Well, the truth is, if you actually want change in your life, if you want to become better, if you want to become smarter, if you want to enter to societies where you can get treated better, where people have better means, you're also going to have to dress in a way that makes it clear that you are worthy of this treatment. It's kind of when you go to a nightclub and the hottest girl gets in. She doesn't have to be smart. She doesn't have to be the coolest person in the world, but because she's hot and because she's dressed in a way that the club wants her to be dressed, she's going to be let in. And you know what she's going to get when she gets let into that club or that lounge or whatever it is she's let into? She's going to have the playing field because she's going to be able to talk to all of the people in the club or in the lounge that are going to have means, or that are going to have the opportunities to better her life. But if you're standing outside the club in your raggedy clothes and you're a multimillionaire that no one knows about, no one's going to let you in if you look really raggedy, if you look really bad. Even if you're really smart, even if you're a millionaire, even if you're like, well, I deserve to be let in, I'm my authentic self, people should just accept me for who I am. Well, if you're constantly on this slope of people should always accept you for who you are, people should always accept me for who I am, people should always accept me for who I am, then it's clear that you're not accepting yourself for who you are. And when you start accepting yourself for who you are, you also become more comfortable with making changes to yourself so that you can actually better yourself. You don't see it as a threat to yourself that someone tells you, well, you know what, if you actually want to get better treatment, if you actually want to get richer, if you want to get smarter, maybe you need to change this. You see that as a good thing. You don't take everything personal. Because when you're constantly thinking about your life as in, well, everyone should like me for who I am, then you can never really be your authentic self because you're constantly trying to prove to everyone that you can be your authentic self. And it's a game you're playing with yourself. It's a mental strain you're playing with yourself because you're exposing yourself to the people that want to question you. You're trying to make people question you. And instead of saying, well, I'm good enough as I am, when someone comes out and say, well, maybe if you want to change your life, you should change something, you become very defensive. And that's something I notice a lot in my comment section. A lot of people will be defensive. They'll be like, well, I went through this or I went through that and I can't change. I don't want to change. I shouldn't change. Well, if you're so comfortable with the life you live now, if you're so comfortable with your quote unquote authentic self, why do you feel like you need to defend yourself? Why do you feel like you need to be in the comment section defending yourself? Why do you feel like you need to constantly be telling people that you are your authentic self? Or why do you need to tell someone who made a change that they're not their authentic self anymore and that they're a pick me? Maybe it's because you have people pleaser tendencies within yourself. It's bringing you a lot of turmoil that you're bringing upon yourself because instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to be happy with myself no matter what, no matter if I have to wear the same clothes that are black and white and look like a basic office outfit for the rest of my life, I'm going to be happy with myself. Or if you had to wear a clown outfit for the rest of your life, you're going to be happy with yourself. You have to be happy with yourself without having to try to prove to people that you can be your authentic self. Because when you start to do things out of spite, when you do things to spite people. I saw this with my mom too, because my mom said, she wanted to prove to people she could do things her own way. That's doing things out of spite. And that's not doing things because you want to be your authentic self. Your authentic self is at peace. Your authentic self doesn't need to defend themselves. Your authentic self is not trying to make everyone see her authentic self as right. They're just living their life. But if you're constantly trying to defend yourself, especially to your daughter, like, oh, well, I'm just doing my thing and I'm doing it to spite people. I want to show people how it's done. Well, then you're doing it out of anger. And the thing about leveling up and manifesting, one thing that's very important to understand is that it's all about emotion. If you're doing things to piss people off, if you're doing things to show people who's boss, then you're actually not doing it for yourself. That's actually when you become the pick me. If it's so important for you to stir up this conversation, then maybe it's actually something you're doing out of spite. It's something you're doing out of negative emotion. It's not something you're doing to actually better your own life. And when you start doing things to better your own life, which I started doing when I realized I wanted to live the soft life, I was trying to dress feminine and I had such a hard time because I was not used to it. It was uncomfortable for me to dress feminine. I was used to dressing in baggy jeans and sneakers. I had 40 pairs of sneakers. I was wearing baggy t-shirts and jeans and, all kinds of cool sunglasses and streetwear all day, all night. And when I started to dress more feminine, it was hard and it was really hard and it was uncomfortable, but it was in line with what I wanted for myself. It was in line with what I felt I needed. When you're in doubt about if you need something or if you want something or not, pretend you have the one thing you want or the other thing you want on each side of a coin, toss it into the air, and then the side you hope that it lands on while it's in the air, that's the thing you actually really want. And that's something I did when I thought to myself, what do I want? And I realized I wanted the soft life. I wanted to be taken care of. I wanted to be provided for, because that's something that brings out the qualities, it brings out the peace, and it brings out the neurodivergent powers that I have. It facilitates the power within me instead of robbing me of the energy that I have. It actually helps me out immensely. But I could never get this unless I put my ego aside, unless I put my lust and my desire to be seen as someone who's authentic to themselves to the side. When I put that to the side and I said, well, this is what I need to do, then I became my authentic higher self, because I was honest and vulnerable enough with myself to put aside the person I thought I was and say, maybe this was not me. Maybe I can do better. Maybe I can do more. And when I started to put myself to the side and say, maybe I am more than what I thought I was, then that's when people started saying that I was a pick-me, because I wasn't no longer trying to pick fights about my authenticity, and suddenly it was within myself. My authenticity was me, and I didn't need to challenge it. I felt happy, I felt content, I felt at peace, and I didn't have to think too much about the choices I was making. It became clear, it became streamlined, and it became effortless. And that's when I knew I was actually living my authentic higher self. And I was not tethered to being the pick-me that I once was. Now I was the pick-me that people think I am. But I'm happy about that. People should think whatever they want to think. And I'm not going to have those mental conversations with them, because that's whatever. It's about what I think about myself. It's about who I think I am. My thoughts about me. And me, I know I can become better every day. I know that I don't know anything and I can always become better. And that's what I know. And that's why I'm happy I leveled up and I changed my style and became who I wanted to be. And people can call me a pick-me for doing that. And that's fine. That's great. That's good. And I hope you guys like this video. It was a bit more personal, But you know what? I think that can be good. But I'm so glad you guys are tagging along and listening to the content that I make because it means a lot to me. And I hope you guys can learn from it. And make sure you leave a like and a subscribe. And if you want me to talk about something else, make sure you leave a comment down below. And I'll reply to it and I'll get back to it and I'll make a video about it. I love you guys so much. Bye.